Okay, welcome everyone to JOHS WICOR Bytes, where each week we review a different WICOR instructional strategy to help you maximize student learning. My name is John Old and I am a District EL Secondary Coach, and I'm happy to be here again this week. I have the privilege of continuing with our learning around thinking maps, part 2. And today's strategy is Thinking Maps Part 2. Let's review briefly what thinking maps are, when we should use them, and why we should use them. We recognize that many of you have received this training before, while some of you may never have had it. So what are thinking maps? Thinking maps are a consistent set of 8 visual verbal learning tools, each based on a fundamental thinking process created from substantial research on how humans learn. Thinking maps help students organize and represent their thoughts while creating a reference point for summative tasks, and they help teachers to easily and efficiently develop graphic organizers for any cognitive process. At this point, please take a second to pause, reflect, and discuss these questions with your colleagues. This week, we will be looking at the second set of 4 maps: the brace map, the flow map, the multi-flow map, and bridge map. Okay, we're going to start by looking at the brace map today, which focuses on parts to whole, using those kind of parentheses that you can see in the diagram. On the left, you would have your overarching theme, and then on the right, with the kind of sub-points, would be the parts that make the overarching theme. Some key questions that might help you consider whether to use a brace map or not. What are the parts of something? How would you deconstruct something? Some key words that also lend themselves to considering whether to use the brace map or not would be parts of, structure, deconstruct or decompose, physical components. The brace map is an extremely versatile map and can be used easily in any classroom or meeting. It can be used for taking an abstract concept to a concrete concept and used for teaching academic vocabulary. It can be used for decomposing numbers and used to enhance conceptual understanding. For a writing extension for this map, please consider summary writing. How do the parts you identified in your brace map work together to form the whole? In reflective writing, were there any parts in your brace map that surprised you or that you found difficult to understand or identify? Explain why. Our second map today is the flow map, used for sequencing. Thinking about some guiding questions here to help you consider whether to use the flow map or not. Which of these steps comes first is a great question. What are the stages of is another question. Some keywords which signal whether to use a flow map could be sequence, retell, recount, cycles, patterns, steps. The flow map is a very logical and practical map to embed in your classes. Maps can be drawn on paper, using tech, built kinesthetically, and using manipulatives. Flow maps can have students step from box to box as they retell an event or identify the steps. You can have 2 flow maps on top of each other to make a parallel flow map. It's great to add color for purpose in a flow map. One other thing is to remember is numbering each step is not necessary. You could ask your students why each step is in a certain color. For example, in a scientific experiment, you could ask the hypothesis why the hypothesis and results steps might be in one color. And some writing extensions. Analytic writing, summary, describe the sequence of events or the steps you mapped out. Why is the order important? And application. Choose one step in your flow map and explain how it both results from the previous step and affects the next step. What would happen if this step were changed or removed? Okay, we are going to look at the multi-flow map now, which focuses on cause and effect. And as we did with the two prior maps, we're going to think about questions which can guide us into using the multi-flow map. First question would be, why did something? Another question could be, what are the benefits of something? And then keywords which signal whether to use a multi-flow map. We might incorporate using for multilingual learners, causes and effects, consequences, benefits, why, outcomes, results, if then. Okay, so you can focus on part of a multi-flow depending on your purpose for its use. For example, identifying the causes that led to a character doing something significant. This is called a partial multi-flow map. So in that case, you would only have either the causes and your event or the effects and your event. And that's totally okay. Another thing I wanted to point out was color coding again can be used to focus on the causes and effects, just to draw your reader's attention or your student's attention. And then let's think about our writing extension as we've done with the other maps. First of all, cause and effect. Identify two causes from your multi-flow map and explain how they interact to produce the effect. Are they equally important? And then also application. Imagine one of the causes you identified did not occur. How would this change the effects? Describe an alternative scenario. Okay, our final map, part 2, is the bridge map. And this is about seeing analogies. And as we've done with the other maps, thinking about guiding questions. The first one would be, how are blank and blank related? Or, what is the analogy of blank? So some keywords again which would signify whether to use a bridge map or not could be relationship, analogy, metaphors, one-to-one correspondence. Okay, this can sometimes be the map that is least used as it is the last to be taught. The bridge map helps students identify the relationships between things. As long as the relationship remains the same, the bridge map can be extended beyond 2 pairs of words. The key to teaching the bridge map is to make sure students understand what the relating factor is. On the previous slide, you saw the initials RF, which means relating factor. In the above example on geology, the relating factor in the top bridge map is rock forms when. Basically, the relating factor helps combine the top and bottom of the bridge map into a coherent sentence. For example, in this example that you can see, igneous rocks form when melted rock cools and hardens, as sedimentary rocks form when sand, rock, soil and remains are pressed and harden as metamorphic rocks form when rocks are changed by heat and pressure. The bridge map is particularly good for helping students understand mathematical representations and in foundational reading skills. As in both examples above, you can stack bridge maps on top of one another. And please follow the 2 writing extension prompts you see on your screen. Okay, this is but one other piece we wanted to consider, and it's called the frame of reference. So we're going to use a circle map just to help guide you in the frame of reference. So a frame of reference is used to identify information that shows the influence of background experience and other factors that shape students' perspectives. It can be used as an extension of a circle map or any other thinking map. It's used to generate guiding questions. For example, where did you get this information? What prior knowledge and experiences influence your view? And what are the cultural influences on your perspective? For example, age, gender, ethnic, race, religious, political, geographic, etc. A great thing with a frame of reference is to use color within the frame. So obviously the frame here is in blue. A black frame is fine as well, but when using pieces within the frame, it's useful to use color. So green here, the Innovative Learning Thinking Maps Handbook and prior Thinking Maps trainings, these are your sources. So we're going to say green is used for your sources. Then, if you have any influences which have guided your thinking map and what you've written, you might use blue. So my own perspective of thinking maps as an educator. And then finally, any kind of main ideas or titles to help people understand what your map is about would be in red. So in this case, it's why do we use a frame of reference? First of all, thank you for staying with us and with me and really focusing on the learning around thinking maps. Here is your bridge to practice. Consider the upcoming lessons and standards in the scope of your curriculum. How could you incorporate one of the 4 thinking maps discussed today into your lesson plans to help students process and organize information? And your 3 wonderful coaches here are available to meet with you and guide you in this work. Good luck, everybody.